Namaste, and welcome to this Asana Video Manual. My name is McGraw.
And my name is Bob Smith.
And we are thrilled to bring to you this particular video series that's based on our Asana Photo Manual. Enjoy. Next, we'll be focusing on inversions. As we warm the body up towards those inversions, we'll be calling upon the Sun Salutation, or Surya Namaskar, in a little bit more of a challenging variation. In this one, we'll be building upon our focus in the core work, in which we describe thoroughly and safely the movements through plank and stick. Now still, if you need to allow yourself to release down onto your knees, as we did in the last video offering, you'd be welcome to do that. Make sure you don't hurt yourself, because I want you to continue to enjoy your practice truly for the rest of your life. As such, from here, as you're able, join us in the standing position of Namaskar, with the hands together at the level of the heart, growing upward through to the crown of the head, and feeling the feet firmly planted. Just one more breath here. Inhale and lengthen and lift your arms up overhead in Urdhva Mukhasan. The elbows wrapping in, shoulders slide down the back, lifting the ribs up and out of the hips. And one more breath here. Now releasing from the position, hinge at the hips as you fold forward, still maintaining a long neutral spine, bending the knees, lifting the tailbone, lift the head, and lift the chest. One more breath here, gradually developing as you're able. Now from here, stepping your left leg back, place the left knee on the ground. Draw the pelvis up to perpendicular to the ground, so that from here you can lift up your right foot. Feel that you can practice balancing over the left knee so that the pelvis stays vertical. From here, as you're able, you might develop those arms overhead. And one more breath. And releasing from this kneeling warrior position, we'll take the hands down and step your way back in downward dog, Adho Mukha Shivanasana. And one more breath here. Now as you release from the position, lift up your head and draw your way forward into plank position, long and neutral from the heels all the way to the crown of the head. Keep that neutrality as you simply bend the elbows towards 90 degrees, or maybe not that far. And then release and take your way down to the ground. Development through to your cobra with hands or forearms on the ground as you prefer. Lifting up through the tailbone, lift the head and the chest, and the eye gazes upward in Bhujangasana. And one more breath. Now as you release, come up and back yet again in your down dog of Adho Mukha Shivanasana, bending the knees, lift the heels, lift the tail up nice and high, and one more breath here. Now releasing, step your left leg forward for the kneeling warrior. Draw the pelvis up to perpendicular to the ground, and demonstrate that ability by lifting your left foot, doing so balancing over your right knee. And keeping that as you develop upward with the arms overhead, elbows wrap in, shoulders are sliding down the back. Last breath. Now as you release from the posture, step your way forward to forward bend, Uttanasana, hinging at the hips, neutral through the spine, so lift the head, the chest, and the tailbone, even though we are bending forward. And one more breath here. Now as you release, draw your way back and up and into upward facing position. Lifting the pubic bone, grounding the sacrum. Lift the chest and let the shoulders slide down the back. One more breath here with the eye gaze upward. And as you release, draw your way back into your standing Namaskar. Now pause for just a moment in Tadasana. Just release your hands to the sides of the hips. To the other direction. In doing so, we're starting to take it to your second time through the Sun Salutation. Inhaling, reaching those arms overhead, elbows wrapped in. Let the shoulders slide down the back in Urdhva Mukhasan. And one more breath here. Releasing, hinging at the hips in Uttanasana. Bend the knees, lift the head, the chest, and the tailbone. Stretching through hamstrings. Exhaling here. Inhalation, step your right leg back, this time with the right knee off the ground, but still draw the pelvis all the way up to vertical, so that the sacroiliac joints are secure as we reach through in Virabhadrasana 2, gradually deepening, and one more breath here. Now releasing from the posture, step your way back in Adho Mukha Svanasana, or downward facing dog. Exhale as you press back and lift the tail. Inhale, lift up through your head and your chest as you come forward into plank position. Lower halfway at most in Chaturanga Dandasana. Elbows wrap in, shoulders still stay on the back. Press through as you inhale up to Bhujangasana. Exhale, shoulders back and down, lifting the heart and the head and the eye gaze. One more breath here. Tuck your toes, bend the knees, and press all the way up and back with your tail in your down dog yet again. And one more breath. Inhalation, step your right leg forward. Allow the left knee to bend. So you can draw the pelvis all the way up to vertical. And with that pelvic agreement, we have a solid and sturdy warrior to build from. Exhaling, deepening, opening the heart, head and eye gaze comes upward. Inhalation, step to forward bend. Exhale here, neutral through the spine in this intense stretch through the back. Inhale, back and up into upward facing posture. Exhale, reach it through, opening the heart. Inhaling, returning into your Namaskar position. Feeling the changes and release back again into Tadasana. Now pause and notice the effects that the Sun Salutation has had on your practice this morning. And as such, we're going to start to shift into time spent more in down dog, as it's a nice beginning style inversion. As such, draw your way back and into your down dog as we practiced before. In this way, taking it into a little variation for the low back stretching. Pick up your right foot and cross it behind the left. Let the right heel come down to the ground so you can shift your right hip up away from right side of rib cage, opening through that side of the body. And one more breath here. Now as you release, come on back through center and change it to your second side. Left foot crosses behind the right, left heel's to the ground. You're lifting your left hip up away from left side of rib cage. And one more breath. As you release, come on back through center, and we'll try playing with one leg at a time in a more challenging way. As you're able, shift your weight into the right foot and lift your left leg up. Initially, that left hip might wing up towards the ceiling like we're demonstrating, and then as you're able, square it back down, evenly horizontal with the right hip. And one more breath here. As you release, you might shift it to your other side with the left foot toward the midline. Lifting up through your right leg, the right hip might lift initially, and then as you're able, square it back and down, evenly horizontal with the left hip. When you're tight in that left calf, you might need to keep the heel up with the knee bent. Gradually, we consider taking it closer to the ground, and a last breath. As you release, come on back through center. And in just a moment, we're going to try to lift up another one of our limbs. With that, shift into the right foot on the ground, lift up your left leg. Keep the hips evenly square, and as you do so, consider lightening the load on the right hand. As you're seeing, you could just slightly draw that right hand back. Over time, with building strength and confidence, the right hand might come by the right hip. As you release from the posture, you can come back to center. And when you get your bearing, you might work that left foot a little closer to the midline. Lift up your right leg and keep the hips on evenly square. Gradually, the shifting is onto the right hand and the left foot. Left hand reaches back. As you grow in strength and confidence, that left hand might be back by the left hip. And one more breath. When you release from the posture, come on back out through to a forearm dog. With your elbows on the ground, feeling a greater challenging stretch, opening through the chest. And we'll be using this as Bob starts to instruct for us the sliding dolphin.
From forearm dog, you're going to shift forward. Keep your nose about the same height as you come forward off the ground. Your torso swings forward. Your hips are still lifted. Nose goes over the thumbs approximately, and then back. So this is like a dolphin going over water. And then forward again. Keep the scapula down the back, the hips lifted. And back to the forearm dog. And one more time. Forward over the thumbs with the nose, and back, and then come down and rest in prayer, high hip prayer, like I'm showing, or the regular prayer as Key is showing.
Now that last activity of the sliding dolphin sets us up nicely for the more complete expression of the inversions coming next. We'll be shifting to the wall space for 90 degrees at the wall.
We're going to do 90 degrees at the wall, both on the hands and the forearms. Measure out a leg distance from the wall. This could be a countertop or a bar, like a ballet bar, or the wall. So you've measured out that leg distance, and then you're going to take your hands that leg distance. So the hands are going to come down, and then we walk up. It's a 90-degree angle, lifting the pelvis, lifting the low scapula, and trying to gain some security by lifting up. The elbows don't fly out, they come in slightly. Now from here, one leg could come up, vertical. Both hips are lifting up towards the top leg, in this case the left leg on Key. You're breathing through it. And second side, certainly you can take breaks anytime. So as the second leg comes up, the foot against the wall, that hip lifts, both sides of the pelvis lift up towards the top leg, and then come down gracefully and rest in a standing forward bend. These inverted poses, very invigorating. From here, after you've recovered, we're going to do forearm 90 degrees. You could do a headstand hand base. Forearm 90 is more difficult than the handstand 90 because it's more challenging on the shoulder. The hands were where they were previously, and then we're going to walk up the wall. Could be the headstand hand position. Low belly inverts up. You're trying to gain the lift. The challenge is the shoulders to open, the low scapula to lift, and the low belly to lift. This is our forearm 90 degree. And one more breath, lift up as you exhale, and then come down and rest for a moment. Now the forearm stand and the handstand we're going to show against the wall. These could be done out in the center, but it's much easier to do it against the wall, and we recommend the wall. It could be a headstand hand base, and you could go right next to the wall with the hands and kick up from there. Ideally, the hands are separated, and we lift up as Key is showing. You don't want to sway your back too much. Possibly the feet come away from the wall. Likely at first you're just using the wall, trying to maintain length of spine as you're up into the forearm stand against the wall, or as Key is showing, away. And I'll show another demonstration of the same.
So you can see as Bob takes his hands together, he's securing a headstand base. It's easier for those of you with tighter shoulders. And from there, as he kicks up one leg at a time, he presses off the forearms immediately, so that from here you can see that he could nod yes with the head. And as he does so, you know that that head is not bearing weight, so it's safer for the neck. And he's doing a good job of lifting the hips out of the ribs. You want to continue in that way, not to collapse into the hyperextension of the back. And that's whether you keep your feet at the wall or start to work those feet away from the wall. When you release, you want to take it down into prayer position to give yourself a chance to normalize your blood flow, to let it come out of the head. And as such, when you are ready, then to proceed, we will shift into the handstand at the wall, preparing for perhaps this kind of similar work out in the center. With Bob's hands a forearm distance away from the wall, he starts to shift from a down dog position, kicking up one leg at a time, to the wall. Doing so in such a way that the eye gaze can look towards the fingers, preparing for balancing in your handstand, and breathing as you're reaching through. In this way, Bob can focus on the hips, helping them stay evenly squared, lifting them off of the rib cage. And you might feel that by your foot height relative to the wall. As such, feel that the feet can press up and squaring up the hips as best as you're able to. Again, when you release down from the position, you want to take it into a prayer posture so that you're allowing the blood flow that has been increased in your head towards our benefit of clearing the vision, clearing the mind, and as such, give yourself a moment to rest it down into your prayer position again. Now, these same positions over time can be brought out into the center. And as we demonstrate for you, the forearm stand and the handstand in the center without the wall, we do so bearing in mind that you're likely to want to have, as we do, an assistant to spot you. And as such, we'll start to shift now. With your forearms firmly planted, elbows are just a shoulder's distance apart, and with my flexible shoulders, my hands are also a shoulder's distance apart. If you need to practice it this way, you're welcome to, although no doubt it will be more challenging for you. In this way, with my hands apart, I'm using my fingers to help to grip, and in that way to help to counterbalance my body weight, balancing it between my elbows and my fingertips. Much easier than the handstand when we just have the hand to the fingertips to balance on. And then starting as if in the forearm dog, lifting up one leg and finding the way to balance there. With the eye gaze forward and breathing and reaching through, I might again get the sense of flexing through the heels to press up and to square the hips away from the rib cage. When you release, you want to take it again back down and into your prayer position. Allow yourself to both normalize the blood flow and also to give yourself a chance to incorporate whatever it is you've been learning about yourself. Similarly, as you consider coming into handstand, you can see Bob's work, and if you want to bring voice in here, and he's kicking it up, and as such, he presses up through the legs, with the hips right over the rib cage. Those elbows wrap in so shoulders still stay nice and broadly apart. You can notice his eye gaze is towards the fingers and even farther forward. And in right timing for Bob, we'll take it back down and perhaps into that prayer position again so that we can separate the head from the tail.
Or you can go immediately onto your back.
And as Bob's choosing to come immediately onto his back, he's hugging the knees into the chest and taking it into a wind-relieving posture.
We'll shift into shoulder stand.
Headstand is next.
Oh, headstand, okay. We'll shift into headstand next. The best way to do headstand is against the wall until you're well trained. I'll show it against the wall, or Key will show it against the wall. The hands go right next to the wall, interweave the fingers.
And initially it's helpful if we use this as an opportunity to get stronger in the core of the body, so we have what it takes to be inverted on our head with the core intact. In this way, I'm tucking my chin in towards my chest and securing the back of the head. With the knees straightening, I walk my feet in as far as possible so that from here, I'm lifting my hips away from the ribs through the core of my back body. Once you're able to do this, then you'll be able to press all the way up. And with the feet on the wall, you can have a greater sense of support.
Most of the weight's on the forearms, not much on the head. You should be able to lift the head off if you're using the wall. At least access it as a possibility. And then when you're done, you'll come down gracefully. You could come down one leg and then the other, or the more difficult way is to do what Key just did. Certainly you want to rest after the headstand in a prayer position. And now I'll show the headstand out in the center. Certainly headstand, one of the most famous of the asana positions.
And ideally, as you come into the headstand in the center, you get there the same way that was just demonstrated at the wall. Tipping up, so you have the strong core, as Bob's demonstrating, so that the legs can come up. You can always bend the knees at a certain point to make it easier for you. And then, as is able, developing upward without overly swaying the back. Now Bob's going to start to take it into several of the variations that he appreciates. Here's a rotation of the hips relative to the rib cage in Bob's direction, and we'll call that to the right. As he releases back through center, now he's going to switch the direction of rotation, and in doing so, the pelvis is rotating with respect to the rib cage. We'll call that to the left. As he comes back to center, he's going to continue with that, but now with the legs scissoring apart. In doing so, distributing the workload through those two legs like balance poles. And in doing so, switching it to the other side and finding that coordination into which we can rotate and also stretch through the legs. From here, as Bob finds his way back to center and brings it back and down, relaxing in that prayer position for just a moment, is allowing himself to incorporate the additional blood flow from the brain into the whole body.
From the headstand, we're going to shift now into bridge pose and shoulder stand. Come on your back, walk your feet in close to the pelvis, hip distance apart, feet parallel. Raise your pelvis, interweave your fingers underneath. On the exhale, swing the sacrum toward the line of the knees, the belly's pulling out, you're lengthening the low back as you walk under with the shoulders. Bridge. Each exhale, you're grounding it down and pulling out with your low ribs, allowing the stretch to happen in the neck. The strengthening is in the buttock and the low back muscles, a core position that is good for the core of the body. From here,
Bob's neck is still neutral, and that's what's allowing him to speak as clearly as he is. As such, you want to keep that as you start to shift now into the shoulder stand. You might allow your hips to come down just gently and let it be easy for a moment. And in just a moment, as you're able, and Bob too, we use the hands behind the hips to help to lift the hips up. The knees are bent as much as necessary so that the feet are sent back, so that the body weight of the feet and the legs together with the rest of the trunk goes into the shoulders, not towards the head or the neck. In this way, Bob will consider coming into a couple of his favorite variations, and in doing so, bringing the, watching for your variation, with bringing the hands together and down to the ground is one variation of opening through the chest. Bringing one foot down to the ground and the other leg up and over the line of the shoulders starts to build it back into the bridge he demonstrated before. Shifting to the other side, as he's able, still using those hands and the hips to lift the hips, allowing one foot to come down to the ground, and then drawing back and up. Now legs wide spread apart, and with those feet coming down to the ground, this is a wide angle plow position. And gradually, in the right timing, Bob's going to take the feet closer together so that they are in the plow position. You can see the feet are digging into the good earth like a plow digs in the earth, so we can do some nice planting. And if you're having a hard time staying there in this advanced position that Bob has, you could have the feet up on the wall, or you could use those hands behind your back to still help to lift those hips up. In right timing, Bob will start to allow himself to slowly uncurl and lie back down onto the back for a moment's rest in the corpse position, or perhaps just still here in the wind relieving pose. And after these challenging inversions, you might allow yourself a little bit more time to make the transition into the breath work that we'll be offering.
this is Ujjayi breathing with retention on the end of the inhale and retention at the end of the exhale. We'll just do 3 of them. Exhale slowly, and no diaphragm lift this time. Inhale slowly, about 8 seconds. Now hold about 8 seconds. Lengthen through, the chin is in slightly. And now as you exhale, Ujjayi exhale. At the end of the exhale, hold the air for a moment, and the diaphragm lifts up, chin is in, Uddiyana Bandha. Then inhale. Hold the air in for a moment. Holding the air in after the end of the inhale is easy. Lengthen through. Exhale slowly. At the end of the exhale, the diaphragm lifts, the ribs expand, the chin is in. Inhale. Hold the air in a moment, and we'll do it one more time. Exhale, Ujjayi exhale. And the Anabandha, the diaphragm lifts, ribs widen. Inhale. And then stabilize with just a couple, 3 normal breaths. And we'll finish the routine as you feel fit. Namaste.
Namaste.